Hello. Let's do a little bit of game development. We're working on an educational game called Open Learning Quest. It's a prototype at this point. We have a lot of ideas and renewed direction for the game to go. We could call it a roadmap. And currently we are in the prologue of our story-based roadmap, where we're setting the stage, the story, getting the basic game components arranged, the game mechanics, you could say. Source code is available on github.com/openlearningquest/game. It's generic. The game is Open Learning Quest in a way, but our repository is called Game. That might get we might rename that at some point. So if you want to check out the code, it is open source. It's last been edited 2 years ago. So we've been on a hiatus, learning some skills, and recently in 2024 have started planning again. So in today's session, I'm just going to work on getting my development environment set up, and maybe getting the code updated if we get that far. Now, I'll move this off screen here, the source code. And I've got the code cloned locally. All the scenes and whether or not we will continue to use this exact code will be determined. And I'm able to open that in Godot engine itself. I would prefer, I believe, to work in VS Code. I'm just familiar with the VS Code, and I think there's a lot of benefits to using it, such as integrations with Copilot. And it just has a lot of nice features that the Godot engine editor doesn't necessarily have. It's relatively new and focused. You know, there's trade-offs. Let's edit this project to see firstly. Let me actually create a branch. Let's just call this maintenance. The maintenance branch. When I edit this, it may be that the code is outdated and needs to be updated by the engine. Here we go. The selected project, Open Learning Quest, was generated by Godot 3. It needs to be converted to Godot 4. So yeah, we haven't worked in it in a while. I think Godot 4 might have been released or might have been in early beta at that point. Convert only the configuration. Use this option to open the project without attempting to convert its scenes, resources, and scripts. Convert the entire project, including its scenes, resources, and scripts. Recommended if I'm upgrading, which we are. Do nothing and go back. If you select a conversion option, you won't be able to open the project with previous versions of the engine anymore. We don't want to work with Godot 3. We're moving to Godot 4. So we will convert the full project. It'll perform a full project conversion, updating the scenes, resources, and scripts from Godot 3 to work in Godot 4. It's a best effort conversion. It makes upgrading the project easier, but it will not open out of the box and will still require manual adjustments. Make sure to back up your project. So we do have the project on GitHub, and I'm working in a branch here. Okay. So, looks like it may have done something. Let's try, may have done the conversion. Let's try editing it again. All right, now it's opening in the Godot editor. All right. Man. Something about the way they draw the Godot engine, it doesn't work like a normal window in some strange ways. So here's our game. It's really a prototype. We started with a 2D game, top-down RPG style. And the idea is that students, like players, are kids, and are learning certain topics at school. And we want to put them in situations in the game that, foster learning, that simulate concepts that they're learning, or help them engage with non-player characters as part of a story. So all we're trying to do right now is get the basic game mechanics in place. And it's a role-playing game that allows them to maneuver and interact with objects and elements in a 2.5D game. My initial drawings here are from just a 2D perspective. So let's see if this will even run. Maybe it'll run. And it looks like it's still thinking about it. All right, so that's a good sign, I guess. Okay, so there we go. Too many arguments for move and slide. Expected at most 0, but we received 1. So essentially and this is a very simple project, so I'm not surprised it's not working, but it's also might be easy to fix because of its scale. I think what we need to do here is we have a character body 2D. I think I need just to set these like this value here on the character vector, on the character body. Before calling move and slide. I do a lookup symbol. Moves the body based on velocity. If the body collides with another, it'll slide along the other body. Modifies the velocity. So I suppose we will set the velocity on the body. Velocity vector 2, set velocity, get velocity. Current velocity vector takes in pixels per second, used and modified during calls to move and slide. So what we'll do, and so our code is crashing. I can copy this error. And I'll open a ChatGPT tab. And I'll say, importing a game from Godot 3.5, I think, to 4. So we'll go to our script, player GD, and see how well Godot knows, the GPT knows the Godot 4 GD script and some refactorings that occurred. In Godot 3.5, move and slide accepts multiple arguments to control the movement, like velocity and direction. Godot 4.2, move and slide no longer takes these parameters directly. Instead, it expects you to configure these settings through properties set on the character body 2D node. That's what I was kind of expecting, but I was hoping we could get an example. Here's how you can update your physics process function to align with Godot 4.2. Set the default parameters. Use properties such as linear velocity and up direction, sliding enabled, and slide on slopes, which you can configure on the character body 2D. And the other thing was we're going to port this to 3D. So I really think this is throwaway code. But I'm practicing here, upgrading, and one of my main goals for this is to set up a development environment with VS Code. Update move and slide usage, remove all arguments from move and slide, and set the velocity through linear velocity. So let's see what they're doing here. So this linear velocity is just a property. It's like a kind of a global variable here. So if move to move vector. And one kind of frustrating thing about the Godot interface is it's you can't quite scale it, and you can't sort of hide certain sidebars and things. There we go. Actually, you can. Learning curve. These should be inward arrows at that point. All right, so we're going to do this. I just sort of like VS Code a lot better than the Godot editor. It's all right, though. So if move to move vector is still here, player arrived at destination, still here. Player arrived at destination, move to is null. Linear velocity, here we go. Vector 0, interesting. Stop moving. That's a good comment as well. So we don't need to pass in that case. And we have some red text here. What does that mean? Identifier linear velocity is not declared in the current scope. Okay, that makes sense. It did mention linear velocity is directly set on the character body 2D based on the normalized direction of Another thing is like, how do I copy this error? Like, weird things about the Godot editor. I could copy this error, there's a copy button here, but not here. If I want to copy and paste that, I have to type it instead. Let me just get these other changes in here. Perhaps it's using its knowledge of an older version of GD script. So else we will normalize the vector in the range 0 to 1, which was done here. No, I like this. It's breaking it down times player speed. Oh, it's using our comments there. Yeah. Linear velocity, move vector normalized times player speed. Then just move and slide. Goes here, and I don't need then to capture that as a variable, but we will, oops, use this linear velocity. And, oh, darn it. Now, I think the step I'm missing is I need to set up linear velocity up here. So let's ask, how do we set the default parameters? Godot 4.2 character body 2D, you should use velocity instead of linear velocity. All right, that makes sense. A bit of a hallucination. Use up direction if needed. This optional property can define what is considered up for methods like move and slide. Character body 2D, export variable player speed, got that. Speed vector, got that. Player speed. Var move to is null, got that. Input if event action is pressed. Player move. Viewport mouse position. Yeah, another point of departure is that I have click-based navigation in the current prototype, this version I'm working with, but we have an internal prototype we haven't pushed to GitHub yet that uses keyboard navigation. So similar to like Minecraft, Minetest, trying to think of what other games that use that similar. It's third. See, those are first-person games. This is a third-person game with keyboard navigation, WASD. That way we don't need any navigation mesh or anything like that. We need to decide, but I believe our target platform is going to be desktop. And I was using this click-based mode because I was originally thinking we would have a tablet-based game. So that's not currently on the roadmap. Move to viewport. Yeah, so that looks the same. Change player direction, velocity X, velocity Y, and okay, so their syntax is changing. Interesting. So that works. Cool. Player animation, play move up and move down. That changed. Else, move slide. Those are looking good. Physics process, move to, move vector. Player arrived. I'll just destination and player destination. Move to is no velocity, so they're not using linear velocity. That hopefully will go away. I don't know. Velocity and velocity. All right, looking good. Everything is cleared up there. Now, too many arguments removed and slide should be should be dismissed now. Now let's see if our game works. Again, this is not a very complicated game. Prototype, and it's really just me fiddling around. It's horrible, I know. Please don't hate me. But one thing that the game was that was working previously was the player would walk behind the trees. This is some hand-drawn stuff. This is kind of cool. It's a prototype. All right. All right, so we're pivoting away from this 2D top-down thing. Anyway, I'm just going to get this to work and commit this stuff, commit these changes, and we'll try today to get it to work in VS Code. The other thing was, if I look at this scene tree, now I can take it out of this big mode, which just, why does it do that? Why can't it fit on half the screen? Everything else can scale to half the screen, right? And even VS Code can scale to half the screen. I'll have to remember, this is probably not a battle I need to fight. What Godot uses, I can't even just slightly adjust this. Like, if I just show VS Code, it's just something you do. You just kind of rescale things. Just that's how things. You put a sidebar over here. I can rescale it, and I can fit it to half my screen. I can fit it to the whole screen, or up in the corner of the screen. And things just kind of work. That's why I don't think the Godot needs to really focus on writing its own built-in editor. It can just focus on the game engine things. Anyway, all right, that changed a lot of things. And help players use better integrated development environments. So let's go ahead and set that up today. Although, and all they would need to do really is just create custom sidebars in VS Code or something. All of this stuff, these inspectors and things can probably be recreated in VS Code. But I understand the decision was made to create the whole editor and everything in Godot engine. So this is pretty remarkable that they've done that. It's just, you have to do so much usability stuff that easily gets overlooked. Now that one scales. Why doesn't this one scale? Now that's scaling. But when I clamp it to the side, it won't scale because it's too constrained. All right, whatever. Anyway, enough of that. I'm not trying to complain. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, so it looks like, and the upgrade process was actually pretty smooth and seamless from the version 3 to version 4, so that's pretty cool, clearly there's some changes to the syntax. All right, I will commit those changes, publish, and merge the branch, and that's about it. So hopefully I can quickly get a development environment set up. If so, we can start chipping away at the backlog. In today's session, we might pick a feature like the main navigation menu, like main menu, not navigation menu perhaps, or if we can get a basic player moving in a 3D environment, that would be a good start, and that'll open up everything else. But I'll have to check my collaborator real quick and see what's going on with the code for the 3D prototype. All right, Victor's working on the artwork, a sprite, so that's cool. If we can get that code on there, I can start on the next feature. So we'll just merge this real quick without any review. That way we can check out, and the debugger is warning me about a couple of things. Debug session closed. Okay, full stack variables. So now if I go back to VS Code, so another thing that VS Code has really good, Git integration, many other things that I think just would take forever or never happen in the Godot thing. It's just not a first-class development environment in terms of general productivity. There's just so many more people developing many different languages and projects with VS Code. I don't know how I'll bridge the gap here, but okay, we got our changes locally. So let's find out the instructions. So the problem I'm encountering, I'll just showcase this real quick. When I open the game in VS Code, I have to restart to upgrade something. It's going to verify. Let me grab some tea real quick. I'll be right back. All right, cool. So basically the way Godot and other apps are installed on Mac is they go into your applications folder, and they're sort of like, to my basic understanding, the .app is like a folder with the binary in there and other assets that are needed. So the Godot installation is like a binary. Oh, one other thing I can do is upgrade Godot. Because we've been going through this Godot, the GD Quest Godot interactive tutorial. It's really cool. But for some reason, it only runs on Godot 4.2.0. And we're just a couple of dot versions away from that, 4.2.2. It was crashing. So I had to revert to 4.2.0 for a minute. So let's just get to the latest. The reason I'm doing this is because I believe VS Code is going to go inside of this. So I'll drag it into our applications folder. It's sort of like, oh, wait. That's the wrong one. Let me go back here. 4.2.2 stable. I have to unzip that. And let's do that one more time. And if I drag it and drop it there, it should ask me if I wanted to do that. All right. Is that what you're trying to do? Applications. Let's see. Oh, because it's running, of course. Oh, and it is actually. Replace. It was down there off the screen. All right, so there we go. Now we have Godot installed, even though it was running. Did that work? Quit. Run it again. Yeah, I didn't quit. So let me try that one more time. So this should be Godot 4.2.2. I could have both versions installed. The GD's Quest is a really good initiative. If you're interested in learning game dev in Godot, I really recommend supporting them. You know, some of their courses are paid, and it's worth the value because they are very thorough and professional at how they present all the topics. And they do a lot of open source work. So if you have the means, check them out. They have a lot of tutorials, and if you can afford the courses, which are on sale right now, go for it. I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. I'm saying that as a genuine recommendation. They're very good. All right. So I've got it downloaded. Let me just make sure it's when I run it, it's the 4.2.2. Yes, it's the new one because it says, gives me a little warning, and there we are. So I've got the stable official 4.2.2. I hope GD Quest fixes whatever the bug is specifically on Mac with the interactive tutorial. It's the history. Yeah, I've got a lot of tutorials, and one of them was this interactive one, but I don't know where it is. Okay, very cool. Which hopefully is just free for everybody to use. All right, so I'll show you the problem that I'm having now. So I've got the latest Godot installed. Now we're gonna hop back over in VS Code, which is hiding. And it notices some changes were made. I'm not sure why. Oh, interesting. When I change the editor in Godot, it's saving that. Okay, we might want to ignore that, because my preferences shouldn't affect other developers' preferences. That could be confusing. Like where I put my docs and stuff like that. That's kind of a personal development thing. What I'm focusing on, for example. What script is open. So this metadata, we probably don't want to check in. That should be in our ignore, I think. Anything in .godot. Shader cache. We probably don't want to commit that. But some things it seems like you do want to commit. Strange. All right, well, leave it alone for now. Okay, so what happens? Well, I'm going to open the project file. Here's the project file. Double click that. Click E. And so do I have my extension installed, the Godot extension? Tools for game development, we can own GDScript. And I sort of would like to use an official plugin if possible. So I'll go to the official docs. All right, so you get Visual Studio Code by Microsoft. Make sure C++ extensions is installed. Oh boy, all right. This does funny things to my keyboard shortcuts. I think the extension pack did funny things. When using Clandy something, okay, from the Visual Studio Code's main screen, open the Godot root folder. With file open folder. We're gonna create tasks, JSON, other, if there's no option such as create task JSON. From template, do that, tasks. Within the tasks, find the tasks and add new. Build shell, scones, dev build, file. We're gonna create a launch. What the ding dong? Oh, you know what? This is for working on the engine. Good grief. Thankfully don't need to uninstall that. All right, let's go back. I think this is one, 312,000 installations. It's not an official thing. This is where I get stuck. Selecting the Godot executable. And I think I've got to go to applications. Then let's say Godot FG. What's that? So I can't really just select this, right? Let's try, see if that worked. The specific Godot executable Godot.app is invalid. Extension features will not work correctly unless this is fixed. I don't want to watch a whole video. I wish I just had some text description on how to make it work. So the features, download, and it can't connect to the language server either. Open it. Okay, Godot editor. This is the executable inside of the Godot.app. See, what the heck? Let's do the first thing. So open editor settings. Text editor, external. Executable path, essentially applications. Okay. You can use the following settings to configure Godot tools. So path to Godot 4. And I essentially need to find in Finder, I guess. Applications, Godot, show packets, contents, macOS, Godot. If I open with open terminal, here's kind of what I want to do. Copy a link, or is there a way I can get an absolute path to this? Quick look, copy. No, that won't work. I don't want to open it with the terminal because that'll just open Godot. Get info would maybe help. Well, same idea. So. macOS Godot. Let's see if that works. All right, so we are connected to GGScript language server. That's a good sign. Mouse is freezing. I'll take a quick sip of tea. Hopefully this will work. Nice two-way compatibility between Godot and VS Code. GGScript debugger. Now, how do I open? What I kind of want to do is get Gemini up, because then I can just ask questions verbally. I'm using Godot 4 to develop a game and trying to integrate Godot 4 with the VS Code. I've configured the external script editor in the Godot editor, but don't know how to open game scripts in the external editor. They seem to be still opening in the Godot editor. And set the editor. I have to proofread these before I send them. Text editor external, so enable autosave. While you're in editor settings, search for autosave enabled. To keep changes in sync. Opening scripting VS Code. Now there are a few ways to open your scripts. Simply double click on a script and Godot's file system doc should open it in VS Code. Hey, that's cool if that just works. I didn't even try it, to be honest. In fairness, I should try things. Wow. So, wait. How do I just close this one? Close. And, you know, I can still use this for documentation. That's one thing I won't have the go-to definition, unfortunately. Okay, so then let's go to the file system. For example, the player GG. If I double click it, boom, it worked. Except application Godot contents macOS Godot is invalid. Yeah, Godot.app. All right, so we'll just grab this string to make sure I don't do any typos. Open settings. And it doesn't have the trailing slash, so I'll put that there, and that should work. Very cool. Need to Godot.app. Makes sense. So yeah, it's like a folder with the whole like binary and other supporting files in there. Pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna close it, and I'll close this. And I think I need to ignore the Godot. I think add Godot to our git ignore. Let me ask. While editing the game files, I'm noticing a lot of changes in the .godot folder. It's sort of a hidden folder. Most of those seem to be configuration files, such as editor settings, but also a lot of cache files, like texture or shader caches. Should those be kept in reversion control, or should I ignore the .godot folder in our open source project? Yeah. Generally, you should exclude the following from version control: cache files, import files are generated when importing assets, editor specific files. What to include: Project Godot, GD ignore lets you customize what Godot ignores when importing assets. Creating a git ignore file. If you're using Git, you can create a git ignore file in your project's root directory. Godot imported, Godot shader cache. I would like to just ignore the whole thing. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem that the Godot seems to be mixing things that are useful to the project in with things that you shouldn't be keeping revision control. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. Local lost project settings, like reconfiguring your project settings, export presets, etc. If you clone the repository, set up a new development environment, you'll have to reconfigure some settings. In most scenarios, especially for smaller projects or solo development, which we're starting to not do, ignoring the entire Godot folder is a perfectly fine choice. If you're working on a larger team project where shared editor settings and export presets are important, then selectively ignoring the specific files within Godot as described in my previous response may be a better approach. Yeah, so that's kind of weird. All right, well, let's go with the hybrid approach here. So yeah, let me do this again. So if I'm over here and I say, oh, I'm going to edit this player GD. So that kind of works. And we're getting some nice type hinting and things like that, or lint feedback. So I think this is what I'm looking for. I want to edit in VS Code, but it won't be perfect. It's not exactly opening the entire... it is. So then I can edit my git ignore, which is nice too. Gig ignore. There we go. Yeah, okay. So yeah. And I will just put that on our main branch. But I want to use VS Code also for revision control. I see. See, this isn't something that other developers need. This is my thing, so that's true. We'll ignore that. And it looks like I'll need to flatten the project instead of having the game in the subfolder. All right, we can deal with that. That's fine. Oh, yeah. Strange. What the heck is that? This should actually work. This, and it's I think that should work in every folder. Let me double check. Oh, dang it. Oh, I see. I just put another good ignore there. Didn't quite do the job. It's still a bit of a mixed bag, but dialog bounds, link properties. I just don't know what all these things are. Recent files. This doesn't need to be in revision control. Gosh, it's a bit of a mess. All right, so first foray into Godot development with VS Code. It's a bit messy, and with Git. And if I want to open that here, and did it open another VS Code instance? What did it do? It kept the same instance open. All right, same project instance over open. Alrighty then. So what I'll do is just, the project is in the base directory though, so that's good to know. You always have to have an empty tab open. Okay, so I'm kind of waiting for the 3D game to be checked in. Yeah, and I don't have to be committing all my editor layout. So from this end, how do I run the project? All right, well, let's take a task. That'd be nice if there's a headless LSP. So then maybe I don't need the Godot editor running to edit our project. Cool. Now the problem is those files are already being tracked. So if I close the Godot editor again, it's not running in headless mode. That's another problem. All right. Problems, shadowed variable. But this is the type of stuff, this is really good. It can help me write better code. Shows me right where these problems are. And then I can get help from Copilot. And maybe Copilot understands some of these messages. Solve the problem. You can rename the local function parameter velocity to avoid shadowing the property of the base class. That's a good point. Because the velocity is a member of this character body 2D. That's actually a bug that my linter was able to catch, and the Godot editor didn't really have that, didn't highlight that issue. The parameter new velocity is never used, and so we might just use it as an underscore, but that's interesting too. Again, I have to check out how this code is being used. And essentially it's just all these velocities. So now I can use my multi-select. Multi-select, multi-select, multi-select. And do all those at once. Godot editor doesn't necessarily have that. All right, so let's see the physics process. Unused parameter, the delta. So I think we can just use an underscore. Delta, that's the code convention in Python, for example. If I just do this, I mean, hey, we're not going to use that, but that's what it represents. Yeah, that's that. So we make the changes, lint. All right, so then the other thing is I can get help from GPT or Gemini or ChatGPT over here. So we got several of these tools. I've added the entire .godot folder to gitignore. However, some files within that folder were previously tracked and committed to the repository. How do I remove those files from within the .godot folder from tracking so that we don't commit any changes to them? Yeah, something like that. And read this. So how do we add the entire .godot folder? We'll put that to gitignore. And of course, hey Alan, thanks for the subscribe. I appreciate it. Welcome to the channel. However, some files were previously tracked and committed to repository. To remove those from within the dot. Yeah, and this is all one question. Excellent. Yeah, I'm not a Git expert, of course. I've been using it for a while, but there's a lot of depth to all these tools. All right, I'll be right back and grab some more tea. All right, thanks for your patience. Yeah, so it looks like we'll remove all the cached from that file. Nice. And git removes files from the index. -r does it recursively. Cached only removes the files from the index, not your working directory. That's good. We don't need to do that. And then we'll commit remove tracked files from Godot folder. Hey, this is really helpful. So let's see. The terminal, clear that out. Godot editor stop. So it's kind of hogging the terminal. So that's one problem, but we can just open a new one. Or actually just close that. Let's open it here so it's easier to read. All right, so removed all these cached files. Good. We'll stage those and I can copy that. Use that code with caution, of course. Don't just copy and paste without realizing it. And it's nice that it gave me that description. And it says they're deleted, but let's see. They will be there on the disk. They're just not being tracked. Subtle difference. Enter. All right. So it's set delete mode on them, but we can still verify they're all there. Just whenever they change now, we won't have to worry about committing those. Okay, that was a really good change. So we will. We got two kind of commits that are ready for pushing to get to synchronize to our main branch. We'll work in a branch, generally speaking, but I'm just kind of cleaning things up right now. Let's take a look at a task. So I don't want to collide with my friend Victor, who's working on the 3D prototype, 2.5D we will call it, because the environments will be 3D, but the player is going to be a sprite, 2D sprite. They call it a 3D sprite because it navigates in 3D space, but uses a 2D sprite image. Kind of confusing, but yeah, it's a 3D node, so it has the X, Y, and Z vector position, but has a 2D image attached with a sprite sheet and things like that. So it's kind of the game aesthetic we're taking. But we know there's some other features we're going to want to include in the game. Yeah, and let's see if we can get this launch configuration set up though. So that's the next thing. Now we'll be able to press F5 to launch the game after that. So to configure the GD script debugger, open the command palette by pressing F1. View, show, run, and debug. Or command palette is also Control Shift P. Show, run, and debug, which just opens this tab. It's another way of doing it. You can say click on this icon. Click on the create launch JSON file. All right, doing it. And so select debug Godot. GDScript Godot debug. Basically, I think that's what they mean. Changing your relevant settings, press F5 to launch. Okay, so here's our launch JSON. Let me close these out. And GDScript launch project, Godot launch workspace space folder, debug collisions, debug paths, debug navigation, minimal, everything. Wow. Address, port, wow. Yes, that's cool. So now I can kind of hit this, but my language server in Godot is not running in the background, so I'll probably get an error. Let's try it though. It said it would run in headless mode. It did, it worked. Oh my gosh. So good. The game just worked. You know, this is my game. It's all right, it's all right. You know, we've got movement. The trees originally, see, you can hide behind the bush. You have to like, there's something about how I did it. I did the trees that was incorrect, but the bushes work. That bush works. One bush works. Maybe there was something, you know, we're going to throw this code away. Plan to throw your first one away. It's all right. I can hide behind the bush. We're going to go from 2D to 2.5D. So that's the next thing. Development environment is up and running. Let's take a look at a task then. Yeah. So we'll go to GitHub again. Open Learning Quest. This is where our code is. And you got to start small. Start where you are, but and don't be afraid to show off your work when it's just not very good. That's okay. Now, I have several issues. We're mainly focusing on one game now. We can add game music. We can add player's interaction system with in-game objects, simple inventory. A companion that follows the player was a suggestion. I was going a tile map for terrain and paths, and integrate NPC dialogue system. So I will create a task real quick. To port the game from 2D to 2.5D. And let me go to my conversation from earlier, where I've been talking about this game. Oh yeah, there it goes anyway. That's the stuff I'm chatting with GBT about for your information. Okay. See, I can't speak with this one. Goal of the task is to this will be the basic since we have a 3D designer who's building assets with Godot, assets with Godot and Blender, and later 3D. The 2.5D is meant to allow us to use like a sprite. So we can create basic characters, NPCs without 3D modeling. Minimize the amount of 3D modeling we need to do. Sometimes it's easier to create player sprites just with a 2D editor like a sprite or something else, I'm not sure. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, part of this is just project management, right? You want to plan your project and start keeping a backlog of tasks in general with game development. It's just a software project, so you can borrow from a lot of project management skills that are needed in any software development context. I will use this mostly as a template. But Victor's already sort of done the work. I'm just kind of earmarking him. I really don't want Victor to get worried about preserving the original code, migrating it away. And I'm just having this issue so that he'll have guidance. And we're also creating these issues so that other developers who might want to get involved with the project have some kind of idea of what to work on. So we're going to implement a new 3D sprite, develop new game mechanics tailored to 2.5D perspective. He's already done all of this. So making sure this issue aligns with the work that Victor's already done so he doesn't have to circle back around on it. New 3D scenes done. Environment is visually appealing. Well, I don't want to set too high of expectations here because this is an iterative process. Create new 3D models for characters. That's not what, well, that's, you know, why I'm using a template. And integrate these models. So I'll just delete this whole section. New mechanics. Design new game mechanics that are appropriate for 3D environment to maintain the feel of a traditional 2D gameplay. Implement a new collision detection system. Very good. Yeah, so generally don't use stuff exactly as it is from the generative AI. Always, you know, review it, and it really is not going to be perfect any more than the input I gave it was perfect, right? So effectively replacing the original 2D game, all artwork and game mechanics will be freshly created, leveraging the build capabilities of 3D environments and 3D sprites. Using 2D graphics for characters. This new approach aims to establish a foundational style and gameplay mechanics for the entire development moving forward. Build a basic, so firstly, I don't like this, how it always does the indentation. That's wrong. And then we can take out some of it. Build a basic 3D scene that will serve as the template for future development. Implement a new 3D sprite. Implement one new character with a simplified 2D sprite sheet for ease of character creation. We just want sprite sheets. I think that's a good compromise. New game mechanics tailored to the 2.5D perspective. So jump, walk, jump. What else do you do? Camera movement with mouse, or will we have a fixed camera? Or, yeah, we can decide. New 3D environment setup. Ensure that the environment is visually appealing. Well, and basic collisions. Character design, create a new 2D graphics for a character that is visually simplified. Integrate this character into the game as a ease of animation improvement. Designing new game mechanics. Use so implement new collision detection system. A cube is fine. Fixed perspective camera. For simplicity, fresh start. Emphasize this is a new beginning for the game. I will emphasize that by removing emphasize this. This is a new beginning for the game, and old code and assets from the 2D prototype will not be removed. Feel free to. Hey, good day, and on and gone. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing today? You doing any game development? I don't know how much optimization we would want to do. Ensure that the new 3D elements are, well, for various platforms, we're mainly targeting the desktop platform. For desktop platforms, we decided not to do tablet-based game for the first, for at least our first game, for a few reasons. And there's trade-offs to that. One is that the publishing tablet games is actually a kind of painful process, getting approval through the various stores and gatekeepers. If we make a desktop game, it's I think a lot easier to distribute the game. You know, you can just give a downloadable file, for example, or publish that on Steam or GOG. Those are a couple marketplaces that have a bit more requirements, but yeah, nonetheless, you can just have a website and say, here's download the game for Windows, Mac, Linux. Which means also then we're going to have primarily keyboard and mouse layout, not touch-based interactions and navigation. Boom. Design and implement the initial 3D environment. Okay, yeah, have you done that with a game? I did that with a small Apple Store publishing, at least I tried on Apple Store with a small app, and yeah, they said the app didn't have enough features, which, yeah, in fairness, it didn't. It was a survey we're trying to deploy at a community center, and it's just a survey, so yeah. I guess at least the feedback was fast. But then there's a lot of other aspects that start to come up with these stores, such as like the 30% commission thing that's pretty controversial, and I don't have a strong opinion about it, but yeah. Mobile game got destroyed by Google. Okay, how did they do that? In the review process, or from the, you know, for games especially, that 30% commission can be pretty big, where there's so much competition in the game space, marketplace space, that you know, cutting into your revenue by that significant of a margin can make or break small companies. I know there's some flexibility that Apple is, for example, not taking a cut for smaller apps and things. But I mean, for our project, actually, with Godot, we could just deploy it straight in the web, which, if that's a viable option, the web platform is a, you know, first-class platform. But yeah, then there's also issues of how do you get it in front of people, how do you market it, and you know, sometimes the stores are they have a big established user base, and so that can be one. It's all trade-offs. They rejected it. Oh man. Yeah, crazy. And that, you know, burns through your cycles. And then what if you start getting players and make an update to the game, but that gets rejected? Then, you know, and especially with apps, these could be like security updates, all sorts of things. I think introducing these stores and platforms as sort of gatekeepers is not sustainable for a lot of apps. All right, cool. What kind of game was it? Is it still on the App Store? So design and implement the initial environment, create and integrate new 2D character graphics, develop and test the new gameplay mechanics, set up a new camera and control system, conduct thorough testing with focus groups. Let's just, you know, not get too thorough about it. Submit new issue. There we go. Enhancement, and then I'll send this to Victor in our Discord server, which if you're on Discord, you're welcome. Everybody's welcome. It's like a team-based. We're working on a team-based software development workflow, and that's why I'm sort of taking a project owner lead or team lead, you could call it, creating these issues, creating a backlog, creating a roadmap. These are things I've practiced a bit and don't necessarily expect every open source contributor to have that background. So let's see, got taken down since it wasn't bothered to update the privacy policy. That's another thing I had to create for this app that had only local data. I had to create a privacy policy. We don't even have a website or anything for this thing. It just seemed like a weird bureaucracy for just a simple survey. So maybe I was, thinking the wrong direction and publishing it on the App Store. We're making a Godot project. Yeah, just a game. We have a game prototype. It's sort of an educational game. One of the things we were curious about is like, what do games give us when we play? What's the role of games in personal development? And in particular, in an educational context like schools or after school programs, or even as a parent, our kids are, playing games and whatnot. And what are we getting out of it? I spent probably hundreds, if not thousands of hours playing games. Like most of us, I think games are fun, and I'm just looking back at it. I'm like, what did I get out of those? Fun, and can we make it enriching in some way, nutritional in a way, while still being really fun? So that's kind of our idea. We want to find if there's like a middle ground between mindless games that are just even addicting games, or aggro games. Various things that games amp you up or hook you in, and the incentives of the marketplace to keep you playing it, like Candy Crush, to name one. Just not to yuck people's yum. If they dig Candy Crush, that's cool. But from my perspective, I really wouldn't see what I'm getting from that. You could justify it in many ways, like making you think, problem solve, and pattern match, and things like that. But can we do that at a higher level of metacognition? And that's actually teaching us skills, in particular curricular skills. So it's a long way of saying we're making an education game where players build competencies as part of an interactive story. I guess I should have read that. Yeah, because I think we've just been looking at things we do in general, like social media scrolling, and everything. It's either to certain degrees and certain dimensions, taking or giving. And it's not black or white. We still like playing games, and I still use social media and YouTube. And I like to just watch a Netflix video or whatever. So I'm not even trying to be preaching about all that, but I know that if I just watch a bunch of things like I do sometimes, I'll veg out and just watch a whole series on Netflix. I'm like, well, I didn't get a whole bunch out of that. Or Apple TV or whatever it is. So we're sort of taking this as an experiment, building an open source game. And right now we're in what we're calling, it's the roadmap, you could call it. In literary terms, we're in the preface, where we're setting the stage. So we're building the basic game mechanics, such as 2.5D, navigation, interaction, player sprite, objects, inventory, dialogue system. Once we get those basically in place, we're going to start building chapter 1, which is our kids decided will be a medieval themed lesson with a story. And we don't know what that'll be yet, but we're already working on some assets. We're building castles and looking at what medieval villages were like, what medieval life was like. And the idea is that at a meta level, the kids will play a student who in the morning wakes up and does some stuff around the house, gets ready, and goes to school. It might be that they eat breakfast, and then might be that they walk down the neighborhood block to get to school. They're at school, they go to their first classroom. The first lesson of the day is like a history lesson, social studies or something, and that lesson is medieval. And then they open a book, essentially, and that book teleports them to this other game scene, mini game in a way, where a story, a narrative unfolds with NPCs, and it teaches some things about medieval life. We don't know exactly what it is, but that's the general idea. And each subsequent chapter of the game will be able to repeat this process. What's the theme? What are we learning? What are the learning objectives? How do we deliver that in a way that's engaging, that still makes sense at a meta level of this kid progressing class by class, day by day? You know, it's a role-playing game in that sense. And hey, you know, let's try to make like 3 or 4 chapters and call it good. That's our goal in 2024. Maybe it'll be cool for adults too. I don't know. It's and one other level of learning here is that we're learning, all of us, to make games, to do computer programming, to do graphics design, to do art, to do teamwork, do storyboarding, all of these skills that you need to develop a game. Just quite a lot, and we're having a good time with that type of stuff too. Just drawing out, what does a medieval village look like? Well, we need to do some research. We have to go to the library and find that out anyway. So we're already sort of encouraging exploration and learning for the adults and the kids. So it's kind of a fun group activity. So in order to facilitate this whole process, I also need to be a developer. I do software development in my day job. So that's going to be one of the main skills I bring to this, as well as like project management background and open source stuff. I'm also interested in music. So hopefully I'll be doing some game music. But very cool. Yeah, again, we're open source on GitHub. You can check it out. And we do have a few issues if you're interested. Our backlog is going to grow and incorporate a lot of other skills, including design, music. So we could try a simple game music. I don't want to do too much with the existing scenes, though, because I just created the issue to switch our prototype from 2D to 2.5D, and my friend Victor is doing that. So I'll have to do something that's off the critical path right now. We could look at the simple inventory. We could look at companion. Is just a meta idea. I don't want to turn away any ideas, so we will keep those in mind. I don't even remember where that came from. But let's check out the dialogue system, because that's going to be a core one. And there's this thing like Dialogic, which was the first thing I wanted to check out for Godot. I think I just saw it. Here it is. What's the status of this project? We've been waiting for a long time for a release that supports Godot 4. There's been like activity. It's really nice. Dialogic 2. Create dialogues, visual novels, RPGs, and manage characters with Godot to create your game. It requires at least Godot 4.2, Dialogic 2. But they've only released Dialogic 1.5.1. Bummer, dude. So if I look at the releases, there's like a Alpha 13, which was done January 30th. It's so close. So another thing I can do is check the Godot asset library, which here's an unfortunate thing. GodotAssetLibrary.com is actually kind of squatting on the Godot Asset Library, and they're sort of trying to monetize it, but they're not officially the Godot Asset Library. The Godot Asset Library is here, GodotEngine.org/asset library. So luckily, Google has ranked them correctly, but it can be kind of confusing to see the Godot Asset Library and the Asset Library. All right, so why did I come here? Well, there's a lot of cool plugins for Godot. It's not as, of course, big as a Unity marketplace or something like that, but there's maybe something I can check out for dialogue. I've really been wanting to work with the Dialogic. And it may be that we should just wait a little bit, but here we've got dialogue nodes, dialogue manager, dialogue engine, Clyde dialogue, Bonnie and Clyde. Okay, I get it. Dialogic, but only for 3.5. So if I say Godot engine, we're currently running 4.2. What does that give me? Nobody. AI dialogue for NPCs with local LLMs. Probably not going to do that. Dialogue nodes could be good. Dialogue quest. All right, so these are sounding possibly good. HTML5 file dialogues. There's another famous dialogue engine for like story-driven games called Twine and Yarn, something like that. But I don't think there's like a Twine or Yarn plugin for Godot 4.2. Native dialogues is not what we mean by dialogue. Escoria simple dialogue. I was looking at Escoria project for a long time, but it doesn't seem like that project is going to materialize. So I think these are the two. Aside from Dialogic, which hasn't been released. Dialogue nodes. All right. Submitted in May. There is it is on GitHub. Let's check with any open source project. You gotta check a little bit of the health. The user interface looks nice. The output looks nice, and I think you have creative freedom. And we don't have to commit to this permanently. It's probably a single developer. And probably sporadic development, yeah. But kind of increasing. And being open source, we could contribute. It's MIT licensed. Creating and editing using branching dialogues in Godot, kind of cool. I could create a prototype with this, experimental, just see how it works. There's a bug in Godot 4.2. So that's good. It hasn't been tested for C#. We're probably not going to convert to C#. We're going to use Godot or GDScript, so that's good. So this is a pretty viable option. I think most things in Godot ecosystem are going to be like single developer endeavors, not a lot of maturity or longevity. So I have to manage my expectations there. I've just been burnt by that in the JavaScript ecosystem or even in the Python ecosystem. Dialogue Quest is a dialogue system for Godot 4 game engine. This is designed with a few core principles: collaboration, simplicity, stability, intuitivity, documentation, developed alongside Dialogue Quest tester. All right, let's check out the repo. 2 hours ago, release 9 tags. 2 weeks ago, last month. So about well, there's been a few releases. It's a brand new project. MIT licensed. Couple contributors, GDScript, user manual. That's kind of interesting. MD files. Oh, it's a PDF. Interesting. All right, I'll take a quick break. We'll come back. I'm going to try out the dialogue nodes, and maybe I'll try out the alpha release of Dialogic 2 just to see if I can even run it locally. So I'll be right back in a couple minutes. I'm going to take a break. Excellent. So let's go ahead and get a branch started here. I'll assign myself to that. So we signal, hey, I'm working on it. Needs to have dialogue management, game state, and NPC scripting. See if it supports those. So I'm not really gonna check out dialogue quest right now. And I don't know what that is. So here's dialogue nodes. It's got a few releases. They have fairly good release management here. I think I might have seen Gamedev on YouTube. If I recall correctly. It seems like it's got fairly good architecture, at least naming conventions. Dialogue bubble. Godot 4.1. Dang it. Hopefully, it says Godot 4.2, so yeah. Installation instructions from the wiki. From the asset lib, that's the recommended method. All right, so the first thing we want to do, though, is create a branch. So here, dialogue node. Yeah, well, it's called dialogue nodes test. So I will need to run Godot. Open the, where's Godot? It's like frozen. Dang it. Things are so unstable. Just doesn't give me confidence. I can't kill it. Force quit it. And we'll run it again. Open our project. We're on the branch dialogue nodes test, and we will go to the asset lib, dialogue nodes. One thing that I noticed this package is doing is they're publishing a bunch of versions of the same thing with the same name. I'm not sure. I think like dialogue nodes 1.2 or 4.1, 4.2. It's like a bit strange. This is version 1.10. This is version 1.02. See, it should just be dialogue nodes. Not sure how that's happening. Download. Maybe it's backwards incompatible. All right, so I'll just check their instructions right here. It says, easiest way to do it is install from the asset lib using Godot engine within your game project. Opening Godot, the asset lib. Search for dialogue nodes and see even there in their example, they've got 2 of them. Search dialogue nodes by nagging and click download. The next step, open the asset content list and deselect the examples folder in case you don't wish to include example dialogue files. First time users are recommended to keep the examples folder for exploring the example dialogues. I think I'll keep them. Click install and you should see a pop-up saying dialogue nodes was installed successfully. All right, see, this is all right documentation, even though it's sometimes obvious to experienced developers. The process, really don't assume familiarity and just kind of tell people how it works. So that's very helpful. Go to your project settings, plugins, and click on enable. All right, so yeah, we'll install the whole thing. I'll go with the default since I don't know what I'm doing. And it's got some demos and some nice themes and things we can use. Install. All right. Successful. Now we'll go to our project, settings, plugins. This one I do know. Dialog nodes from Nagy. Very cool. Thank you, Nagy. And great documentation. The plugin comes with a few examples to demonstrate the usage of various features of dialog nodes. You can go to the dialog nodes tab, click file, open, select one example. All right, so there's now a new tab. Please do not try to open examples characters T-res. It is a character file, not a dialog data file. Thus it won't open. And they have localization. All right, let's go to dialog. Place one doesn't necessarily have a dialog. Let's see. Examples. Wow, it supports audio as well. Very cool. Maybe demo dot scene. What did they say to open? Select one of the example star files. Okay. Basic. I see. Oh, nice. Okay. So I got to get used to how this is organized. Yeah. Comments. All right, that helps. And there we are. Dialogue. Greg. So you start the dialogue and then can play it. All right, that's my character. I'm gonna walk into the darkness, bounded by the game's edges. So then how do I, okay, I can run, start. All right, hey there. Howdy. Run, start. Hey there. Howdy. Not bad. Dialog node, comment node, signal node, set node, condition node. Set node. Variable. All right, so you can iterate, you can increment things, and all right, this is cool. Or set strings, very interesting. Okay, let's close that. Oh wait, how do I close my dialogue? This is just a thing of familiarization, close and discard changes. All right, example, BB codes, nice. Wow. I do like the graph-based approach. Okay, middle mouse. It does get a little bit tangly, but I can at least follow this. So, Greg, want to learn about BB codes? Yeah, nah. Let's try it. Run, start. Want to learn about BB codes? Okay, so did a little marquee there, underlining there. Yeah. You can write special keywords between square brackets for different effects. Like U for underlining fade or color equals red, or even rainbow or shake or wave. Oh, this is going to be fun. I think we'll go with this dialogue note. This is pretty cool. All the dialogic was looking so nice. It's just like waiting for Godot. All right, tornado. You can even combine two or more effects to create even more awesome effects. Wow. Whoa. It reminds me of the early days of web development and MySpaces. Awesomeness. Got it. All right. All right, so when I right click here, watch this. Boom, all the way over here. That might be a bug with Godot. Might be a bug with the dialog manager. Example branching. Oh yeah, I gotta have branching dialogue, you know. All right, so there's comment, there's start 2, and comment and start 1. Morpheus. Blue pill or red pill? Let's start one first. Which pill will you take? Oh, the red pill's it's already selected, but I'm a rebel. You shouldn't take pills from strangers, you know. All right. Did this start to have a... heck, you couldn't even make multiple dialogue trees in the same file. Say all dialogues for one character or one act. Oh, this is great. We're going to be able to have our story. We have to start storyboarding now. Interesting. And so you sort of trigger these somehow with signals, I guess. When you want to call a specific dialogue tree, you just pass the unique start ID. Okay, ID, start ID, start team. Nice. Into dialog box, start my ID. Super easy. Cool. All right, example 2. Close. Discard. Characters. And if I hit play, does it just play it? Yeah. Writing the character name for every single dialogue can be tedious and prone to mistakes. I mean, look at my name. Gervg. Greg. So you can create a character list resources containing an array of character resources and use it in your dialogues. Clara. Oh man, so cool. The little avatar there. What's even more, you can even put character profiles to spice up the dialogue. Nice. So we got Gervg, but then we fixed it with a list. Greg and Clara. Where? Characters. T-res. Okay. Can I... They said not to open it. But how do? It's not under the dialogue menu maybe, but... Well, what if I open it with this script editor? Open. I don't understand how you define it then. Wait, did it open in VS Code? Examples, characters T-res. I don't think you're supposed to edit this directly, are you? Okay, so... Maybe it's got the wrong port. That should be running. Interesting. Headless. It's a bit buggy. All right, maybe it'll tell us how to do it. But if I go back to dialogue, I don't see how you edit these. All right, so we will close this one. Discarding it. Example signals. It said not to open this, but I'm going to open it. Nope. Characters. Array of characters. Well, here you go. Greg. Clara. I just guess you can do that. Bobbers. A noise gesture. Greenish. Blue. Aqua. Also known as aqua. Done. Now I can change Greg to bobbers. It maps, normal map, I don't know. So we got 1, 2, and 3. All right. Dude. Greg. Oh no. Huh. Well, let me select. I must have broke something. All right, this is just my fault, not knowing what I'm doing. Hopefully there'll be better documentation though. Exit. Exit it all. Discarded changes. Done. How do I close this? There we go. All right, signals, how do they work? You can trigger a signal from your dialog. Additionally, you can pass a value with that signal. One of the problems I'm noticing is that the dialogues aren't scalable and text spills over, so you have to scroll. And the scroll, oh, it does work, okay. Additionally, you can pass a value with it. Signal in your code. Try it. The signal trigger in the code in the demo to create an explosion. Do it again. All right, so there must be an example scene. Got it. And then variables. Let's try that one. Nice. All right, you can store and use variables from your dialog tree. You have 10 coins. What would you like to try? Set value. Setting coins. No, don't do my coins. Setting coins to 5. Current value 10. New value 5. All right. You can even use the set node perform arithmetic to perform arithmetic operations. Got it. What would you like to try? Nothing. All right. So you can. So Greg has been very helpful. Thank you, Greg. Set value. And then if I choose that one, set value, setting. So it tells me what it's going to do, but let's make a typo. All right. Yep. Next. Set value 50. Current value. New value 50. All right, let's do some arithmetic. What do you think? I'm not good at arithmetic. I need a computer. Seriously. Plus equals 2. But I think I can do 50 plus 5. You have now 50 coins. What would you like to try? Set the value to 55. Current value 50. Oh. Wow. Yeah, so to preserve the state. All right, all right. Got it. Nothing. So somehow the state is still running in the background. Interesting. It doesn't reset when the dialogue stops. That's cool. All right, you can make sounds. So I should be able to open like these scenes and then run the scene. And it's like an example. Oh, it's all the examples. All right. Because I did want to see the explosion. Now I like the style on these. You can't drag them around. Can I make it bigger? Because it's really small. Signal, try it. Boom. Do it again, please. Nice. I like it. Got it. Demo selector, start button, locale, and then a particle spawner, and a dialog box. So yeah, it's 7 o'clock, but I think this is what we'll go forward with. We're going to use this for our dialogues. So part of it, the work on any given task isn't always code, right? So we have to do research and testing. So I ran through the installation instructions. It worked pretty well. it has a basic tutorial with including steps for adding nodes, dialog box to a scene. So I think it's a good start. I will move forward with this dialog nodes project in the next session. I won't commit these changes currently. I will just mention, since we're still waiting for Dialogic 2.0 for a long time, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but it's just taking so long. And even people are like, is this project alive? You know, they're even acknowledging, hey, it's going a while. You know, it's very cool and nice looking. Frankly, it looks pretty mature. It would be a good long-term solution, but not if they can't release it. That shows there's like something with the project's health. So I will just add a comment here. Yep, that's my recommendation. So I will continue this task there. I just want to kind of communicate. My findings. Where was the dialogic? Close that. Doesn't have a 4.x release. Cool. All right, so that's my takeaway. You know, a couple of hours here and there working on a project is you make steady progress. The progress today, in today's session, was able to get a working development environment where I can use the Godot engine and editor in conjunction with VS Code, which gives me a little bit better, or in some ways a lot better, developer ergonomics, things like the Git integration, Copilot, linting, and auto-completions are just much richer in VS Code. It's basically been developed and used in so many different languages and by so many different developers. I think it's just a much more mature integrated development environment than we could really kind of, in fairness, expect out of the integrated Godot editor in the engine itself. But, some features are going to be lacking, like the sidebar inspector and the navigation to the code documentation and stuff like that. So at the very least, we'll be going back and forth between them. However, I was able to get the game to run from a debug profile here, run and debug. So that was a good step, where I can write code and debug it directly from VS Code, including its debugging console, I think should work. The Godot tools does give you a bit of, sort of emulates at least the Godot scene tree, so that's already a good start. I think they may have some plans to get an inspector and kind of take some of the elements, inspector node and history tabs perhaps into the VS Code, which would be really cool in my opinion. I hope that happens. But I understand that would be a lot of work, and I understand that this is for Godot core developers to make the Godot editor in Godot itself. So I'm not trying to detract from that. I'm just very comfortable with VS Code. And as a second step, we were able to get some initial traction on a dialogue task for our open source project for the non-player character dialogue system. It meets most, if not all, of the kind of requirements we were looking at. You can define dialogues, it's robust and fairly easy to use. It integrates with the game state, so you can define and modify variables. And we can define scripts with for each character, either all scripts for a character in one file, and triggering them via the dialogue identifier, or however we choose to organize it. It seemed fairly flexible, as well as having the NPC avatar and things like that, and some nice character effects. I did take a look at Dialogic. It only runs in 3.5. They don't have a full release for 4.0 yet. That'll maybe happen this year. Seems like it's pretty close. But in the meantime, I did find the alternative solution for dialogue nodes, and that's what we'll go with. So yeah, just summarizing what we got today and what we got done today. And this is going to be central to the game, though. We'll need dialogues. It's a narrative-driven educational role-playing game. So dialogues, movement, all of these are going to be core game mechanics that we need to take care of in the kind of prelude, in the preface of milestone here, before we can go to chapter 1, which is going to introduce the initial medieval theme and the player's kind of home and school environments, where they'll be navigating between chapters. Cool. Well, thanks for checking out the live stream. Ananagon, thanks for stopping by. And it's nice to chat about games, and hopefully your game development journey is going well, and you're able to keep publishing your games on mobile platforms if that's your target. And Alan, 203, thanks for the subscription, and hopefully see you around the channel. Cool. Well, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for checking out the stream, and have a great day.